What is going on? Welcome inside the Red Mile Rundown podcast. This is episode 47. We have live Flames action that's happened. Games coming up this week. A whole lot to get into around the Flames. Before we get there, though, of course, got to introduce ourselves. I am your host, John Easthope, alongside me, as always, from FlamesNation.ca, it's Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
I'm doing good. I thought it was so funny in the Dome. Like Mike from In the Dome is like one of the funniest people I've seen covering the Flames. Like he's absolutely hilarious. And he made this post the other day and he was saying like, this is the most Calgary Flames start to a season you could possibly imagine because they have a crazy come from behind victory that they had no business winning. Then they get absolutely destroyed. And then they get a million scoring chances, can't score and end up losing 4-2. Like, that is Flames hockey right there for you. That is like exactly how they play. So it is very fitting to have the season start the way it has.
Yeah, it's like I tweeted you the other day too when we were watching that game in St. Louis, but it's like the 2024-25 season never stopped. It's just keep going and going and going.
Totally.
We'll definitely get into that in just a second here, Robert. Let's thank the listeners though here for their continued support of the podcast. We appreciate you sticking around and making us part of your podcast rotations. We continually see significant growth in our podcast, and we appreciate each and every one of you. 3 games into the season, Robert, we saw 3 very different hockey games, true-esque fashion, as you and Mike pointed out on Twitter and tweeting around things. What have you made of the Flames start, and what do we see this past week in your eyes from the Flames starting up there in Edmonton?
Yeah, I mean, the start is kind of what we expected, 1 and 2. That sounds about right for this team. Wednesday night, they had that was a crazy, bizarre comeback victory by the Calgary Flames on Wednesday against the Oilers. Like the 3 goals that they scored were nuts. Like Connor Zary, I actually thought it was a high stick, but it counted. You got Stuart Skinner gifting the Flames a goal, and then Matt Vagridden shooting a puck off a skate, which and the player he shot off of was like 10, 15 feet away from the net, and it somehow made its way in. So that was crazy. And then you got
must be good at billiards.
Yeah, no kidding. So you have that game, and then you go into Vancouver, second of a back-to-back. The team, they played well in the first 2 periods, and then in the third, things fell apart. You could tell that they kind of hit a wall, and they got tired, which is fair. And then you got the home opener on Saturday, and I actually thought they played really well on Saturday. I thought they generated a ton of scoring chances, from about the final 10 minutes of the first to about the final 10 minutes of the third. I thought they were really good, and they generated a ton. They just couldn't score, which was really too bad. But they end up losing that game 4-2. So yeah, a little bit of everything so far this season, and we should dive into what we like and what we haven't liked so far this season.
Yeah, let's do that because those 3 wildly different games, Robert. And you watch those games, and the one common theme for me, and this is where I'm going to start with things that I liked from the Flames, is despite the third period they saw in Vancouver and maybe part of that first period in Edmonton, that work ethic for the Flames was very evident to me. This was still a team, much like last season, where you saw they don't have maybe the up-end skill, the high-end skills. Clearly, there was no McDavid or Crosby on this roster. But these guys are going to put their work boots on, and they're going to rotate their lines. They're going to shuffle through, and they're going to try to set each and every one up for success the next time that they're out. So what I really liked from the Flames in these first 3 games was how well this team worked together. We saw it really pay off in those first 2 periods against St. Louis. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold on to that. But you played 3 games in like 66 hours or whatever it was to start your season. You're gonna run out of gas eventually, and we saw that in Vancouver and in the home opener. But I really have to applaud the way that Huskers approaches, and he's getting a lot of flack on social media for a lot of different things, and I don't understand the hatred towards this guy. But for what he's done is he has a flawed roster that he's put in a good position to be one of the harder working teams. It worked last year and almost got him in the playoffs, and it looks like it's going to work again this year. The question, and we'll get to it maybe later in the podcast, is can they score enough? But they're definitely going to outwork a lot of opponents, and that for me is a promising sign given the roster that they have.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I thought like in Edmonton, I thought they did a good job, staying in that game, working hard, shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl for the most part. In Vancouver, I thought the first 2 periods, they really controlled the play. They had a lot of puck possession. And then like the one thing in St. Louis, against St. Louis that stuck out to me was their willingness to block shots too. Like you talk about the work ethic. You throw the the willingness to sacrifice your body, like whether it was Joel Farabee, who had 3 or 4 big time blocks against the Blues, and those were like shots from distance, which are the ones that hurt the most. He was sacrificing. Mackenzie Weegar had a ton of shot blocks. Rasmus Anderson, like you go up and down the lineup, like these guys, they're willing to put their bodies on the line to win hockey games. So you definitely got to respect that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll start mine with the play of Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee.
I love this players.
One. Yeah, they've been really good, and I know like with Morgan Frost, he has basically been running the offense for this team, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. I love the way that he's been controlling pucks, the plays he's making, the confidence. He's set up his teammates in advantageous positions to score. I've really liked his game. Now he's only got the 1 goal in 3 games. Which you expect like maybe like a little bit more point production out of him for the role he's playing right now, but I think he's just a little bit stake bitten, and I like the process. Like when I watch him play, I'm like he's definitely making a difference out there. So, and then like another thing on top of that is he's 63% in the faceoff dot within the first 3 games of the year, which is fantastic. Insane. And then you got Farabee, who I mentioned he's doing the right things, like he's blocking shots, he's playing good defense, he's got 2 points in 3 games. He could have had more. Like he literally could have had a hat trick against St. Louis. He had 3 incredible chances to score. And one of them he hit the post, and then the other 2, Joel Holfer just completely robbed him. So, I've really liked these 2 guys' games. I actually think those are the best stretch of 3 games that those 2 guys have played as a Calgary Flame. And it's big for this team. If they're going to do anything this year, if they're going to try to stay competitive, these are 2 of the more important players on the team. These 2 guys need to be 45 plus point players, and based off their start of the season, I could see them getting there. So yeah, really, really impressed with those 2 guys to start the year.
Farabee is averaging just shy, like 4 seconds shy of 20 minutes a night to start this season. This was a guy that a lot of us, including us here on the podcast, were talking about maybe buyout or trade target. This guy was given an opportunity, and first 3 games of the season, he's taken that opportunity and he's run away with it. He's got 2 nice assists on the season. Like you mentioned, should have had a couple of goals. Playing a ton of time, getting time with Nazem Kadri. It's insane what he's done with the time given to him. Hopefully that can continue, because the knock on him from a lot of Philadelphia fans was his inconsistency. But you couldn't ask for a better start from Farabee, except maybe scoring those couple of goals. And it's really impressive from him, because he definitely was one of those guys we talked about, that if this Flame team's going to have any success, he's got to be a part of it. He's got to be one of those guys that bounces back. And thus far, he's done it. Morgan Frost with playing just over 17 minutes a night, getting a nice look on the power play as well for this team. He maybe should have a goal or 2 this year as well. He's been all around it. And the thing I've liked about Morgan Frost, not a lot of people think of him as this 2-way center, but I think his 2-way game has come a long way over the last little while here. And I think he deserves a little bit of credit for the work that he's doing at both ends of the rink, but absolutely being a driving force for this Flames team going forward. And if he continues to play like this, the answer of who's going to be a top 6 center for this roster, well, the question's answered, because this guy, he might be forcing Michael Backlund down to that 3C role.
Oh, Frost is already the second-line center for sure.
Yeah, like it's incredible, and he's been given that opportunity, he's been given that role, and much like Farabee, he's taken it head on and run away with it. So if they can continue to do what they're doing consistently, night in and night out, and of course every player's going to slump here now and then, it just happens. But you can't really ask for more than those 2 are providing you so far this season, and if it continues, then the Flames really have answered a couple of big questions on that roster as well.
And like you said, like Joel Farabee, he's averaging the 2nd most minutes of any Flames forward. The only forward that's playing more is Nazem Kadri. Like I did not expect that within the first 3 games of the season. So good on him.
Yeah, and he's taken Huberdeau's power play minutes. He's run, he's been tremendous. Like, tip your hat to what he's done with the minutes given to him. The second thing that I really, really like from the Flames' first few games, and a lot of people are going to be, well, they have no backup goaltender, but the unwavering faith that Ryan Huska has in Dustin Wolf, just to go back to him in the back-to-back and say, and then like 36 hours later, no, go again, Dustin, I think says a lot about where this mindset is with Dustin Wolf and with Ryan Huska. They know what they have here in Dustin Wolf. They know what he can provide. He did have a rough 3rd period, but the whole team kind of really did against St. Louis, and that game got away from them. Same within Vancouver. But you have this goaltender here, and he's young. And for Ryan Huska, I don't think age matters to him when it comes to the goaltender in Dustin Wolf. It's I have faith in this guy to go out there and give me the performance that I need to give this team a chance to win. That game in Vancouver was 2-1 for Vancouver after 2 periods. So they were right there in that game. A lot of it thanks to Dustin Wolf. They were able to come back on Edmonton because Dustin Wolf really had a fantastic 40 plus minutes into the shootout in that game versus the Oilers. And he was really a good, solid goaltender for them against St. Louis as well. So the faith in Dustin Wolf that Ryan Huska has is evident early here. I'll give you guys the backup goaltender conversation. We'll have that a bit later in the podcast here itself. But for right now, the faith in Dustin Wolf, it really is providing everyone with, how do I word this here? With kind of confirming what they believe that we have here in this guy, and that's what Ryan Huska sees as well. Just the number one goaltender, roll him out there, and he'll give you a chance to win.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, he's been good, and you know, with how bad Devin Cooley was in the preseason, like the Flames kind of had to play Dustin Wolf all 3 games to start the year. I know, like I would have been fine if they had started Cooley in Vancouver, just because. Those second of a back-to-back, like Wolf shouldn't have to play that. He probably shouldn't have to put his body through that. I know it's early in the year, but just with the way things have gone,
it's not ideal.
You can't really trust Cooley all that much, but sounds like he's going to get the start against Utah on Wednesday, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I'll move on to my second thing I liked about the Flames start here. Couple things. I'll just touch on them quickly. Like just the game in general against the Blues, I thought they were really good. Mm-hmm. In terms of generating offense, they might have generated like the most chances in that game that I can remember, like in like the last 20. Like the ability for the Flames to put pucks on net, to make plays, like make some really incredible passes. Like this is not like the most creative, skillful group, but against the Blues, like they did a really good job generating offense, and I was very impressed by that. Unfortunately, it was just one of those nights where pucks just weren't going in for the guys, and that's going to happen throughout a season. But I was just impressed with the effort, like I said, the block shots, the scoring chances. If they continue to play like that, they're going to be right in the mix for sure. So it's going to be interesting if they can kind of carry that forward. And then the other thing I'll just shout out quickly are just the performance of some of the young players. Mm-hmm. Matvei Gridin in particular, I've really liked his game. He fits in at the NHL level. Like it doesn't look like he's a 19-year-old out there. The thing I really like about him is that he has like, I don't know if I want to call it elite just yet, but he has like a very high-end offensive skill set. And what he's been able to do from what I've seen is that he makes about 1 or 2 plays per game that are like elite NHL offensive plays where he's setting up his line mates for incredible scoring chances. Like a couple off the top of my head where against the Blues, he made this incredible pass to Rasmus Andersson and pretty much put him in all alone. And Anderson flubbed his backhand. Like that should have been a goal. Mm-hmm. And then another one was against Vancouver in the third period. He's behind the net, makes this incredible sort of wraparound pass right onto the stick of Matt Coronado in the slot, and Coronado missed the net. Like those are the types of plays that Gridin's making right now mm-hmm. that are elite and that are they should have been goals. And like he's making these high-end plays that are just very impressive that really nobody else in this Flames forward group is making right now. So it's probably one of the reasons why I think you'd want to keep him around. And then, like I thought Honzek, was pretty solid against the Blues. He had that really bad turnover on the Blues. I think it was their second goal. He made that soft play up the boards, but he had a couple really good chances to score, and he was skating well. And then you got the debut of Zane Parekh, and I thought Zane, held his own out there. I thought he looked really confident and, just smooth and, making really good passes. So I liked his game. I'd like to see him up the intensity level a little bit. There were times where it looked like he was almost too relaxed out there, a little too lackadaisical. So I'd like to see him kind of, just get a little more intense when it comes to his game. But aside from that, I thought he was really solid. So yeah, there's a couple other things that I've been a really big fan of so far.
Yeah, I like that breakdown a lot. Let me dive in here quickly on a couple of things about these guys as well. Is we everyone talks about Gridin and how great that shot is, and it is, and he gets all the credit for it, and he should. Well, I don't think what we're giving enough credit for is his ability to find people and his vision to see this game through. Those are some elite passes that we saw. So this guy's trending upwards for the Flames. He's doing everything he can be for the Flames. And I like to use the word undeniable. He's trying to make it almost undeniable that he deserves to be there. Again, a guy given an opportunity running away with it. So really like what I've seen out of Gridden. I think Hansik's been okay. I think he had a pretty good game against St. Louis myself as well. I still see there's a lot of growth that needs to be done in that game, and I think that maybe the AHL is right around the corner for him if somebody gets healthy here. And then Zane Parekh is like he was fine, and I hope the Twitter's happy that he got in the game. I'm happy he got in the game, and we can calm down with him not, sitting in the press box every night. Like that got pretty wild on Twitter for a few days, and as he continues to learn and develop into the defender that we think he can become, I agree with you here, Robert. He needs to up his intensity a little bit. Remember, this isn't junior. Remember that you have to be on your toes the whole game, the whole time you're on the ice, make those smart plays. And I think that'll come with playing NHL minutes and playing with NHL defensemen. So I really like what we saw out of the kids as well. It was nice to see kids get opportunities and those kids taking those opportunities and running away with it. Now the Flames, they're 1-2 on the season. The one win took 8 rounds of a skills competition, of a shootout to get the victory there. So really not a lot of, results-wise to hang your hat on if you're the Flames. So with all this good, with what we've seen from the Flames here, there is going to be some things that need to get worked on, Robert. Let's go over to things that we didn't like and we'd like to see the Flames work on over the course of the season here, Robert. Where would you start when it comes down to breaking down the Flames and saying, this was fine, but we need to work on this aspect of the game here?
I mean, there's a few things you can look at. If we want to start with like individual players, I think there's been some pretty important guys on this roster that haven't got off to great starts. Like I'll look at like Connor Zary. I think he's been relatively quiet so far. Mm-hmm. Yegor Sharangovich, like, he's had a few like decent chances and he's fit in okay on that line with Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. But the thing I want to see from Yegor, and it's kind of similar to Zane, where it's just like up the intensity level, like show that you care, Yegor. Like I watch this guy play and it's just, he's so soft. Like there's zero physicality. Like he loses puck battles. He doesn't finish checks. He gets out of the way of shots. He doesn't block a ton of shots. Like he's a very skilled player. He's got a really good shot, but like, man, I want to see more out of this guy. Like, especially when you're making $5.75 million on a 5-year deal that just kicked in this year. Like, I want to see more from this guy. So, yeah, I mean, there's him, and on the back end, it hasn't been a great start for that group. Like, you take a look at like Joel Hanley. He's a -5 already. When at 5-on-5, the Flames have been outscored 5-0 with him on the ice. Uyghur has just been okay. I think Anderson has kind of struggled a little bit. I thought Kevin Ball got off to a really good start before getting hit in the head with that puck. So yeah, and like Bean has been really bad. So yeah, there's the defense really has not been great to start the year. So those are a few things that have kind of stood out to me in 3 games, and it's a very small sample size. Obviously, there's lots of time for them to improve, but just from those 3 games, those are some of the players that kind of stuck out for me in a little bit of a negative way.
Yeah, and to go along with that, like. It's 3 games, but we're not seeing that depth come through yet. You look at Pahal, Parekh, Hanzik, Backlund, Uyghur, Bean, Lomberg, Anderson, Kirkland, Hanley together have 0 points. So your depth isn't coming through to help you score these goals in a team that needs to score by committee. You're getting too many guys on the minus sides. I know that game in Vancouver kind of inflated the minuses for a lot of guys, but you're at -5 already on the season. You're trending in the wrong direction. Even -3 for Jake Bean is concerning, and he only played the 2 games. So you got guys going in the wrong direction here. So I like what you've mentioned there. To go along with that, though, just like you just need more out of some of these guys. And for me, Connor Zary leads the way there. I don't mind him getting the reps at center, but there's no way that Connor Zary, with the skill set that he has, the motor that he has, and what this guy can bring to the lineup, should be your 4th line center. But that speaks to the fact of well, we're not getting enough out of you if we put you somewhere else. We're not getting enough out of you to put you in special teams and give you other minutes that way. That this is where you are because other guys have stepped over you, like Farabee has taken the opportunity, Gridden has taken the opportunity. So when guys are going, they look really good in the Farabee and the Frost, the Gridden conversation. And when they're not going well, you get this Sharon Govich, Connor Zary conversation where it's like, you need more out of these guys. Just simple fact is they're not being good enough. And if they're not good enough, this Flames team is going to be good enough. We mentioned it more than once last year as well. This is a score by committee group. This is a everyone's got to chip in type of group in order to be successful. And if you're getting those type of guys that should be key role players not contributing, you're going to get games like you saw against St. Louis where they just didn't have enough in the tank or enough scoring to beat the Blues. They didn't have enough to stay with the Vancouver Canucks on that game on Saturday. On what was that, Thursday? Oh my god, all my days mixed up here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you get what I'm saying here is like you got these guys that are taking opportunities, but now you got these other guys going and filling in those gaps of not taking opportunities, and you can't have that in this type of a team here.
Yeah, and like when it comes to Zary on the fourth line, like if they treat it like a traditional fourth line and they're playing 6, 7, 8 minutes at 5-on-5, then yeah, that's not a good place for him. All of a sudden, you're having the Sam Bennett conversation again, where you're screwing this guy over. But if they kind of spread out the scoring a little bit, and that fourth line was maybe playing like 11, 12 minutes at 5-on-5, and then you give Connor Zary some power play 2 time, then I don't think it's a bad thing. So it really all just kind of depends on how Ryan Huska approaches it. But like early on in the season here, for among forwards that have played 3 games, the only 2 guys that have played less at 5-on-5 are Adam Klapka and Ryan Lomberg. So like Zary is ranked 10th on the list right now in terms of ice time, which is not where you want him to be. Kind of interesting at 5-on-5. Morgan Frost is just ahead of him, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, Zary's only played 27:49. Frost is at 31:06, and he's next in line. So it's a pretty big gap there. So yeah, they got to figure out a place for him in the lineup. Like when we did our predictions, that was my biggest concern with Zary is there's no fit. There's no place in the lineup for him right now. And that's going to be on Huska. They can't F around with Zary's development here. Huska's got to find a place for him in the lineup.
He's a big player and an important player and a player that they've invested a lot into. So you want him to be successful. So he's got to be put in places to be successful. But at the same time, he's got to earn that. You watch him play, and he did get that goal up in Edmonton. But at the same time, that really wasn't his production. He just happened to be there. And so you watch the game in Vancouver, and he wasn't noticeable against the Canucks, in my opinion. And he was only okay against the Blues. So you're putting yourself in the position to be brought down the roster, and that's not what you want from a guy you've invested all this time into. I get the injury thing, but he's had a full off season. He came into camp healthy. We know what this guy can bring. He just needs to be better. Yes, 3 games, but he just needs to be better. For you, Robert, what else needs to be kind of looked at for the Flames here? I don't want to say negative light, but just like this trend kind of worries me a little bit here.
Just their inability to score is a little concerning. Like the games in Edmonton and Vancouver, they didn't generate really anything. And then the game against St. Louis, they generated a ton and they just couldn't put the puck in the back of the net. So that's definitely a little worrisome. As a team, the team face-off percentage is like in like the low 40s right now, which isn't really good enough. Like I know Kadri's been getting killed on the draws early this year. It's something you'd like to see him improve. And then special teams too. I mean, the special teams have not been great. Both are in the bottom 20 of the NHL, the PK and the power play. So, those are just some other little things that, they definitely need to improve on a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird that this team, okay, weird might be the wrong word there, but this team we knew was not going to be able to produce a ton of points. Like we don't have those goal scores high end, which makes the spotlight on a guy like a Zary or a Sharon Govich even brighter when you're not producing points, especially when you're making over $5 million a year to produce and you're not producing. It's got to be a score by committee group. And I think the power play is a direct result of that. You have a 14% power play to start this season. That's not good enough. It's not even close to being where you want it to be a successful team. You're 21st overall in that aspect. And then if you're having a penalty kill at 75% isn't great either. So you're allowing too many goals clearly, obviously, to start the season. You're not scoring enough. So this team really has to find ways to to button it up a little bit defensively, Dustin Wolf can get you so much, but you still need those defensemen. And we mentioned them just earlier in the podcast here, where they're struggling a bit here. You need your defensemen to play good games, and you need to be able to, in transition, create and produce some points to be a successful team here. So I think that's something that I'm going to keep a close eye on this season with the Flames is how do they find a way to create a little bit more? They talk about being 1 goal better, 1 point better than last season. We got to see it now. You need to see those guys take the step, take the growth to produce those points. And this Flames team can find some success doing it. It's a big week for them this week with a couple of games, including a back-to-back. And they have the opportunities to do that kind of stuff against some divisional opponents as well. So it's a big week in front of the Flames here to see if they can correct some of these things. We don't want to be negative on this podcast, so we did a bit of positive, a bit of negatives, but you mentioned them already as well in this podcast. Gridden and Honzek have been playing very well, but you have 2 injured guys as well for the Flames out of the lineup with Pospisil and Huberdeau on the IR. Their returns are still to be determined. Are those 2 just the easiest to send down, or are they even worthy of being sent down when those 2 guys are ready to come back, in your opinion?
Yeah, you know what? The easy move is to send Sam Honzek down because he doesn't require waivers. And, I still think that the AHL is the best place for Honzek this season. Just he needs to stay healthy. He needs to show like who he's going to be as a player. Like he needs to go down to the AHL and show that he can dominate and play well down there. So I would probably move him down, send him back down to the Wranglers when Huberdeau and Pospisil are back in the lineup. And I think the way I would go about it is I would keep Gridden in, and these are the lines that I kind of came up with for when those 2 guys come back. So I think Huberdeau, Kadri, Coronado could be a good line. We've talked about that a lot, but I think you want Huberdeau and Kadri back together. They showed some pretty decent chemistry last year.
Yeah, agreed.
Then go Gridden, Frost, Farabee as your second line. Zary, Backlund, Coleman as your third line, and hopefully you can kind of boost Zary's minutes a little bit. And then Sharon Govich, Pospisil, Klapka, and Lomberg, and Kirkland. Basically, those guys are all interchangeable right now, in my opinion. So position them however you want on your fourth line, but that group of 5 is basically going to make up the fourth line. Sharon Govich, he's like I said, he's got to really step his game up and show that he wants to play big minutes. He wants to play in the NHL and show that he's better than Matvei Gridden, because that's really who he's competing with for a spot in the top 9. So I'd like to see him kind of step his game up. But yeah, I would say send Honzek down, let him continue to develop at the AHL level, let him go down there and stay healthy, dominate some minutes, put up some points, gain some confidence, and then maybe you can bring him back up at some point. And then I do have Sharon Govich down on my fourth line right now, so that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. How about you? Ryan Huska, just a quick heads up. He spoke to the media today, and I guess Huberdeau skated this morning on Monday, and they're hoping that he can join the Calgary Flames for their upcoming road trip. And Martin Pospisil still hasn't skated, so it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of time for Pospisil. But let's hear what you kind of have to say about Gridden and Honzek in the lineup here.
Okay, before I tee off here, because you know what's coming.
Oh, here we go.
You sent 1 guy down, and you have 2 guys coming back. Who's the other move for you?
I'm just trying to think here. I got those 5 guys kind of interchangeable on the fourth line. Maybe I'm missing somebody. Hold on, let me go take a look at the lines.
Because that's 14 forward, which is fine. A lot of teams carry 14 forwards, but you still have your 8 defensemen.
Oh, get Miromanov out of here. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot to say that. Or Jake Bean. Miromanov or Jake Bean. See ya. Go on waivers.
I've already texted Robert this, and if you read my Twitter, you know it's coming as well, folks. This is the easiest switch in the history of the world for me when it comes to this roster. When you get Pospisil and Huberdeau back, Honzek's an easy send down because you want him to develop. You need him to play big minutes, and him playing third or fourth line in the NHL at this point in his development doesn't make a ton of sense for me right now. It's just not where he needs to be. So let him go play in the AHL. Let him get top 6 minutes there, power play minutes, the whole 9 yards, and he can develop into something fine. Where I make the easier move for me, though, might be on the back end. You have 2 forwards coming in, 14 forwards makes a lot of sense. What are you doing with Miromanov? Why is he still on this roster? And better yet, why is he on the practice roster beside your number one defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar? What are we doing here with Miromanov? This is a guy that they tried to look for a home for last year. This is the guy that all offseason people spent, well, where's he going? Are we going to cut him? Do you just waive him? Do you put him in the American Hockey League? What do you do with this guy? It was almost universal, including on Flames Radio and other podcasts, where it was almost universal. This guy was not NHL caliber. Nothing against the dude himself, but this guy cannot play NHL minutes. He's shown it time and time again. So what is he doing here? So for me, this is really, really easy. You want to shake up your defense? Kuznetsov's just down the hallway. Walk your butt down the hallway. Put your arm around the guy and bring him to the Flames dressing room. Put him in your lineup. Scratch Hanley, who's been an absolute disaster for the Flames to start this season, and you put your defensive pairings with Kuznetsov and Weegar, Ball, Anderson, and Parekh can play alongside Pahal. Almost forgot his name. Forgot his name there for a second. Jeez, I'm too riled up. But Bean and Miromanov should be waived, and it's no disrespect to either of those guys. And I understand the Flames are probably not, all randy up to have all these one-way contracts on the American Hockey League roster. But sometimes a business decision needs to be made, and I think that's where the Flames are right now. You've seen these young kids, the Griddens come in the lineup, Zary a couple years ago coming on, and they've taken those roles on and they've run away with them. Why not try that again on the defensive side with Kuznetsov? Why not have the ability to have only 7 defensemen in your 14 forwards, a good rotation, and you don't have to have all of these other guys around? It doesn't make any sense to me. So when you get back Huberdeau, it's an easy fit into the lineup for him. When you get back Pospisil, that's an easy fit in the lineup for him. Where you've got to make the move here to make room for both of these guys, so you got to get rid of some defensemen. You have bodies to have bodies. Jake Bean was not good in Vancouver. I'll give him a pass for Edmonton because game 1 of the year, you try to give people the benefit of the doubt. He was not good in Vancouver. Hanley was not good in all 3 hockey games. And, well, Miromanov, I don't think is an upgrade on either of those guys. Why not see what Kuznetsov is? Because he can't be any worse for me. So that's what I do. That's what I do with these moves, Robert. It's Miromanov away, Jake Bean away, put Hanzik back in American Hockey League, and let's get this NHL lineup going.
I agree. I mean, they got to mix up the D pairings a little bit. They did that today at practice, but they put Miromanov in with Weegar.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it didn't work last year. It probably won't work again this year. I like the idea of like a Kuznetsov Weegar pairing, and then like I'd probably put Hanley out there with Parekh just because he's a lefty, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like it's been a rough first few games of the year, but I think that like stylistically Hanley could be a really good fit for Parekh. So yeah, the key is Miromanov and Jake Bean should probably not see the lineup for the rest of the season. And I would rather see Pahal get in there more. I'd rather see Kuznetsov get in there more. Mm-hmm. Parekh obviously in there more. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that one for sure.
Pahal and Hanley really feel like really good rotational bottom pair guys. Hanley can be bumped up if there's an injury, if you need to, but I think he's playing too many minutes. I think last year he caught lightning in a bottle and he was really, really good. And he was what Mackenzie Weegar needed to have to calm his game down. But that's such a hard thing to replicate in today's National Hockey League. It just is. He's never done it before. It's hard to think that he'll do it again. So that was his ceiling last year, and you got a lot out of him. He's a perfect guy for that third pair. He's a perfect mentor for Zane Parekh. And if he needs a night off, you have another one of those guys in Pahal. Jake Bean is a fine player to put in the American Hockey League. He's not going to disrupt your lineup. He's a quiet guy. He's going to go in there. He's going to be professional. Miromanov, like, the ECHL's calling his name. That's where I think of his skill level is right now. It just isn't a thing. So I get trying to mix up your D pairings and trying to get a spark there, because we've mentioned here on the podcast, you laid it out nicely, Robert. They just haven't been good enough yet, and it's a slow start for those guys. Well, how do you get a spark into that lineup? It's not Daniil Miromanov, in my opinion. It just really isn't. He's not the answer, and I fear to think what would happen versus the Vegas Golden Knights if they see him on the ice with Mackenzie Weegar for almost 30 minutes a night. Yeah,
especially because Vegas is on fire right now. Like, you take a look at like the leading scores in the NHL, it's just filled with Vegas Golden Knights. So that's a little bit of a scary proposition for sure for Tuesday night.
Jack Eichel, for me right now, leads the hard conversation, just how good he's been for the Vegas Golden Knights through the first week of this.
Yeah, he's already got 7 points, and Dorofeev's got 5 goals, and
Like,
Marner's lighting it up. And
ridiculous.
it's just, it's that's a good hockey team in there.
That's a really good hockey. I might have to think my Stanley Cup thinking, because that's how good they've been to start this season. All right, before I get too heated again on this conversation of the lineup of the Flames, we'll see where things have. It's just practice lines, Robert, so we got to take that with a grain of salt, but I think we'll see very similar to that tomorrow night against Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
But we have to have the conversation, because the Flames have to make a decision right now. Essentially, we're recording this Monday morning. They've got to make a decision right now. They've got to make a decision on who is going to be the backup goaltender, because there's a back-to-back on Tuesday night and Wednesday night that includes some travel to Utah in there. That's not the easiest travel, not the hardest either, but it takes a bit of used to. You can't put Dustin Wolf in a position again to be playing 3 games in 4 nights or back-to-back nights, can you? Because that's a lot to ask, even for a young netminder as good as Wolf has been.
It is too much. Yeah, I totally agree. I think on Wednesday night in Utah, that screams a backup goalie start, and whether that's going to be Cooley or if they end up making a trade between now and then, maybe somebody else could start there. But I don't think you can put Dustin Wolf in net for that game. It just doesn't make sense to me. And you know what? Like, we've all been kind of shitting on Devin Cooley this whole year, and it's fair because he has not played well. But I wouldn't mind just seeing him get a game. Let's just see what happens. And if it's a train wreck, it's a train wreck. If he ends up stepping up and actually playing half decent hockey, then maybe you don't have to go out and grab another goaltender. Like, maybe just give him an opportunity at the NHL level just to see if he can do it. It was a rough preseason. The preseason does not matter. Maybe he was, he was talking about making improvements, and he knows exactly what he needs to improve in his game. Maybe he did that over the course of the last 2 weeks, and he's ready to go. So, I mean, Let's see it. It's not going to be easy. The Flames got crushed in Utah last season. Utah beat them bad in their building at the Delta Center. Yeah, so it's not going to be an easy start for Cooley, but you know what? Maybe just give the guy a chance. Like, let's just see what he can do before you go out there and you give up assets to bring in another goaltender. That's kind of what I want to see.
I think you have to play him. Because you were so high on this guy. You went out and you targeted this guy. You brought him in last year. You've done the same thing this year with Prospetov. So I think you have to give both of these guys an opportunity. If Cooley's not the guy and is not going to work out, then I think you have to give Prospetov, because you go to the market, and no disrespect to these guys, but Cam Talbot's a name out there. Billy Husso is a name out there. Heard James Reimer name out there. Is that really sparking your interest and getting you all giddy? Hey, that's a great backup goaltender. For me, it's all the same. They're just names out there. And so if you're looking right now to make a move and spending assets to bring in a backup goaltender without trying the 2 guys you targeted for that role, I think you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. And if it doesn't go well for Cooley over a couple of games, you got Prospetov. If that doesn't go well either, then okay, yeah, let's go visit the market, okay, and see what's out there. But I think you need to do yourself do your due diligence here and give them the opportunity to be that guy that you pegged. You targeted these guys to come in here and be the backup goaltender to Dustin Wolf, because as good as Wolf is, like you and I joked on a text message a while ago that we might get 78 games from Dustin Wolf. and as fun as that would be for us as fans, and as fun as that is to do on NHL 26, it's just not feasible in the National Hockey League, no matter how good you are. Martin Brodeur didn't even do that very often. Like, it's a hard thing to do. So you got to get these guys in the net. You've got to give these guys an opportunity to be the backup goaltender, because if not, then this Flames team is in a different situation. But you have 2 guys you haven't even tried yet. And I think we as fans, and I'm guilty of this sometimes myself, is we're too quick to move off of a guy. We're too quick to say, no, he's not the guy. It was a rough preseason, but that's different than playing an actual NHL game behind an actual NHL defense, behind an actual plan in front of you. So let's see what he's got, and whether that's in Utah, whether that's on the weekend in Vegas, let's see it, because you gotta find out sooner or later. Because Dustin Wolf, he cannot play 78 games this year.
No, he can't. That would be a bit of a mess. I still think he can play in the high 60s, push even like 70. I think he can be that durable and that good, but. Yeah, it's not a great situation. The key for me, though, is just if the Calgary Flames are going to go out there and acquire a backup goalie, I really hope they're not going to use draft picks or prospects to do it. There's been talk about, like putting in like Prisvetov and Miromanov in a deal. I'm like, who's going to take that?
No one's taking that.
No one's taken that. So to me, it's like, if they're going to acquire a backup, it's almost like they're going to have to add a sweetener to the deal, whether it's, a 5th or 6th round pick or something like that. And I hope that doesn't happen, because, the Flames they found some diamonds in the rough in the later rounds of the draft here. And those picks are important for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And to ship those out for a backup goaltender for just this season, I don't know, feels a little unnecessary. I'd rather see them give Cooley a chance. And if that doesn't work, then give Prisvetov a chance. If that doesn't work, then plan C is, okay, let's try to go out there and find somebody else. That's kind of the way how I'm viewing it.
I view it very similar. The only exception to that for me is if, say, they went to New Jersey and they got Nico Dawes, a guy that is younger, a guy that they can play for 3 or 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, but is he that much different than Cooley and Prisvetov?
And that's the second point of that. But I was about to say exactly that same thing. But how much of an upgrade is a guy like that, or DiPietro on Devin Cooley, on Prisvetov? So right now, I think it's just a big bowl of names, and everyone's like half a point within one another. Who's the best guy to back up Dustin Wolf? You've got to factor in that relationship as well and the fit on the roster. I just think there's just a bunch of names out there, and without trying your guys first, you're doing a disservice. And to spend assets, I just don't know if that's a smart thing to do at this point of the Flames development curve.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, if I could choose to bring in a backup from outside the organization, Cam Talbot would be number 1 on my list. That's if you can get him for little to nothing. And the idea behind it would be Detroit could trade him, open up cap space, and then bring up Sebastian Cossa, who they picked in the first round in 2021. That's kind of how I would like to see it go down. Like, I think Talbot would be a perfect backup for Wolf, just like that veteran presence and all that kind of stuff, but don't really know how realistic that is.
How much do you buy into to that portion of it, that the Flames do need a veteran guy, a guy in his later 20s, maybe early 30s, to help Dustin Wolf? How much do you buy into Dustin Wolf actually needing that?
Yeah, like I don't think he needs it. I just think it'd be more of like a nice to have like a veteran guy who's worked with a whole bunch of different goalie coaches, who's taken shots from everybody in the league, who's been around for a while, like has a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge when it comes to the goaltending position. It might be nice to have that with Dustin Wolf, but I definitely don't think it's like 100% necessary.
Yeah, fair enough. I always wonder, people talk about that. I'm like, okay, well, some goaltenders, that absolutely is a thing. They absolutely need that. A guy like Stuart Skinner or Jeremy Swayman, they needed that. They needed that veteran presence to help them along in their career. I'm not sure Dustin Wolf does. I'm not sure he is. I think he already is that guy type of thing, right?
Yeah.
You had that article on flamesnation.ca about the goaltending. So everyone go over to pause the podcast, go read that article and come back and finish the podcast. What is another name out there that really intrigues you to be a backup goaltender? Because we talk about this just being a bunch of names, and I like your Cam Talbot idea, even though I pooed on it a little bit ago in the podcast, because there are some intriguing names out there. Does Ville Husso really strike you as a valid backup option for the Flames?
No. No, he doesn't. I went through.
I saw someone say that was the best fit out there.
Well, it's like, once again, is it that much better than what you got right now?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know.
I don't think it is.
I went through the entire league. I went through every single team's goaltending depth chart. And, there's a lot of like unproven guys like the Nico Dawes of the world out there that you might be able to get. But once again, is that a true upgrade? So, yeah, the only names that I could come up with were Cam Talbot, Mikey DiPietro, Ville Husso, and then Capo Kakinen. Those were like the list where I'm like, okay, there might be a slight upgrade on what the Flames have right now with those 4 guys. But like, that list it's not long, it's not deep, it's
not great.
No, it's really not. So if you're the Calgary Flames, you're just crossing your fingers that Devin Cooley can get his shit together. That would be the best thing possible for this team.
And I think that's part of the conversation. This is why I bring it up on the podcast. Is a lot of people are talking, probably people are screaming at the podcast about, no, you got to fix your backup goaltender. There's a second part to that, right? There's a second part to that conversation. As a Kansas City Chief fan right now, there's a lot of people. I know it's football, but there's a lot of people that really don't like our kicker right now, Harrison Butker. It's a polarizing conversation because he's missed a kick in all 6 games for the Chiefs this year. And the question I pose on that forum as well is, you want to get rid of this guy, but who's coming in here that's better? And I think the same thing can apply to the Flames' backup goaltender.
The cuckoo train.
But the backup situation.
Like
who's coming in here that is going to be an upgrade on what you have here? Like, Montreal's not going to send you Montembeault because Dobis has been really, really good. You're not going to get Jonathan Quick out of New York and is he an upgrade? Like, you got to be realistic when you have these conversations, and that's why I brought up the article with you, Robert, is Kaapo Kakko is like, or Kakkonen is not a good name to have if you're looking for a backup goaltender. The guy couldn't crack a backup goaltending job in Winnipeg last year. Like, that's with a goaltender playing 78 games a year. Like, you have these names out there that you like, and people fall in love with these names every year on the waiver wire. Like, I don't ever remember anyone on Flames Twitter ever mentioning how great Nico Dawes would be in the Flames organization before he was put on waivers this year. Now everybody wants him. And same thing with DiPietro, and you go down the list of a number of different names that you come across on social media and conversations around the water cooler at work. You've got to have a clear option if you're going to move on from Devin Cooley. But again, we go back to what I said before. How can you move on from someone you don't know what you actually have in that guy? That injury last year in the AHL really put him back a little bit. Well, is he sorted out now? Is he a serviceable backup goaltender? You're looking for a guy to play 20-ish games, give or take a few games, and help Dustin Wolf be the best version of Dustin Wolf. That's what you're looking for. And just to go out there and say, we need a backup goaltender, it's really only half the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we'll find out on Wednesday what Cooley's all about. It's going to be the biggest start of his life. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure.
Well, according to Derek Wills, it's Dustin Wolf on Tuesday. Probably the day you're listening to the show is Devin Cooley on Wednesday. The Flames play Vegas, Utah, Vegas. High expectations for the week, Robert? Or are we looking at a couple of losses here? Because that Vegas team, like we mentioned, is an absolute force.
Well, they're a juggernaut. And then, like I said, the Flames struggled in Utah mightily last year.
Yeah.
And then, so you got those games. But then all of a sudden, it's like you got Winnipeg, President's Trophy winners. Montreal made the playoffs, up-and-coming team playing really well right now. Going to Winnipeg. Then they welcome the New York Rangers, who won the President's Trophy like 2 years ago. And they have a good roster. We'll see if they can do anything with it. But then you go to Toronto, and then you go to Ottawa, 2 playoff teams. It's like, it just never ends for this team. Luckily, at the start of November, that's when things start to get a little bit easier for them when they take on the Predators, the Flyers, the Blue Jackets, the Blackhawks, and then they got the Sharks the following week. So it gets a little bit easier, but oh my God, dude, this month of October is brutal for this team. And, I could see a world where the Flames, they're right near the bottom of the standings by Halloween because the schedule is so difficult. Like this, the next the next 9 games here in October, like they have to go at least 500.
And you got travel in there too. Like, you're at Winnipeg, then you're home for the Rangers. Then you go, and whoever built this road trip needs to check the map once in a while. You go Toronto, Ottawa, down to Nashville, then back up to Philadelphia. I don't know how that makes any sense. So, like, the schedule doesn't do the Flames any favor, but that's an excuse in my opinion. It is a lot of tough matchups. You got to find a way to we talked about this last year at the end of the season. You got to find ways to take points where you aren't expected to have those points. So you look at this week's schedule, 2 against the Golden Knights, and then in Utah, where you were absolutely dreadful last year. Can you find a way to scrape out this week and get 4 points of these 6 on the table? Whether that's taking these teams into overtime so you get a point or whatever else you have to do with it. They've got to try to find ways to produce and to get these points and to take them from these teams. They're going to be right there battling with the Mammoth, for a playoff spot, in my opinion. The Jets are a really good team. And then you got a lot of Eastern teams that you can take advantage of. Like, you go to overtime against Montreal, no one cares because that's a point going to the other conference. So an opportunity for the Flames. It's a hard opportunity here for the Flames, but it's a tough week ahead and a tough month ahead. The schedule maker really didn't look at a map and really didn't care what the Flames schedule was, because it was kind of looks like darts at a dartboard here for the Flames early in the season here. Not to complain about the schedule, but that's a tough way to start.
Yeah, it is. And I just went back and looked. The Flames were outscored 8-2 in their 2 games in Utah last year.
Yeah, thanks for that.
And I remember, so like one of them was 5-1. I think that was Backlund's 1000th game, and I mean they got routed there.
Awful.
And then in April they played in Utah. They lost 3-1, but if my memory serves me right, they also got badly outplayed in that one too. So yeah, it's going to be tough. We'll see what this team is made of, because if they get off to a bad start here, and by November 1st, if they only have 2 or 3 wins on the season, then it's pretty much over. Like, I don't think this team is good enough to crawl their way out of a hole like that, unfortunately.
Last year they got off to that big start. This year that's going to be a lot tougher to do since they're already 1-2. It's a small sample size, but it's already time to make sure the Flames get on track early here in the season, because these points matter. You got to have these points matter. Robert, anything else you want to bring up on the podcast? Or are we actually going to do one of these shows in under an hour?
I think we're going to do it in under an hour, which is wild. That usually never happens with us.
Never happens. We always plan for 45, 50 minutes, and it's always like minute 10 or $1:15. We're awesome time management that way. Robert, where can the folks find you and your work? What's coming up on flamesnation.ca from you?
Yeah, it's just follow me on Twitter at Ring of Fire, posting all the highlights and throwing out opinions, having some fun. Don't have any ideas for articles yet, but I'm sure I'll come up with something.
Dinero Miromanov needs a 3-part article, Robert. Just kidding. Robert Munich, of course, of flamesnation.ca. I'm Vintage Johnny at Vintage Johnny84 across your social media platforms. And of course, the show is Red Mile Rundown. Thank you so much for making us part of your podcast rotation. Enjoy the hockey this week. Got some great games coming up. We'll be back next week to break it down and give our thoughts on all things Flames. Take her easy. Have a great week. And also, happy Canadian Thanksgiving.